welcome everybody. Appreciate members of the media for making the trip here to the Bay Area. Many of you from far away, so nice to see you. Kind of you to be here. First, a few other thank yous from me to Joe Lacob and Peter Guber and the Warriors organization. They've done an outstanding job planning for these events. As you all know, it's essentially a week's worth of events in the community, both here in San Francisco and Oakland. I've attended many of them over the last several days. Community activities, clinics, fan fests, everything you could imagine under the sun related to basketball. And for our NBA community, as you all know, because we don't have neutral site finals, it's a time that people can mark on their calendars and a coming together of our community. So from that standpoint, it's always very meaningful to us to see a lot of old friends, partners of the league, and opportunity too, along with our other leagues. WNBA is well represented here. The G League is too. I came from a luncheon today celebrating the Basketball Africa League, and even our NBA 2K League is represented here. So it truly is the epicenter of the basketball community. I also want to thank Mayor Daniel Lurie here in San Francisco, the new mayor. I've spent had the opportunity to be with him at several different events over the last few days. There really is a sense of optimism in this community right now. Frankly, I felt it all the way in New York before I got here. I think the national media is covering the renaissance we're seeing here in San Francisco. I've had the opportunity since I've been commissioner to be here quite a lot, given the number of finals that the Warriors have participated in. I've always enjoyed coming to this community, but I do sense more energy these last several days here than I've experienced in a long time. I think just a true sense of optimism here that the city is turning the corner, and that under Daniel's leadership, that things are heading in the right direction. I do also, though, want to thank London Breed, the previous mayor. She was instrumental to bringing the All-Star game here. I haven't had a chance to see her since I've been here yet, but I know she's in town, so I do very much appreciate her and want to thank her. Without her, this game, these festivities would not be happening here right now. With that, we've already had several events, as you all know. I've had an opportunity to attend them, from the Rising Stars to the Celebrity Game, many different competitions around the city, and everything has gone really well so far. So I'm looking forward to tonight and then the All-Star competition tomorrow night. So with that, Maureen, happy to answer any questions.
We're going to go on the left, second row, Tim.
Tim Reynolds with the AP. Adam, good to see you again.
You too.
It's been a couple of weeks since the trade. I'm curious what...
The trade?
The trade. That's what we're... capital T is what we're calling it now. I'm wondering how you absorbed the initial news of the trade and how you've processed everything that's happened since, including the Dallas fans and the Fire Nico and all those things happening. And there's obviously a lot of anger. And how is this good for the league when a fan base feels very, very jilted right now?
So let me begin by saying, and I said this already, I was surprised when I heard about the trade. I did not know that Luka was potentially a player that was about to be traded. That was news to me. I followed it like a fan from that standpoint. And I've said before, that's the kind of confidential information that's generally not shared with the league in advance unless a team is publicly shopping a player. And best to my knowledge, that's not what happened in the case of Dallas and Los Angeles. And in terms of anger at the fan base, I'm empathetic. I understand it. I mean, Dallas was in the finals last year, and I've also said this before. I like Luka very much. I've known him since the day he came. I actually met him before he came into this league when he was at Real Madrid when we were over there, playing a preseason game. And it seems genuinely, truly authentic that he was stunned and disappointed. You could see it in his body language. Having said all that, I also am sympathetic to the Mavericks organization. I mean, I've known Nico Harrison for a long time from his prior tenure at Nike, and I've gotten to be close to Patrick Dumont, our new governor in Dallas. I can say one thing for sure: whether or not history will ultimately judge this as a smart trade, they did what they thought was in the best interest of their organization. I have absolutely no knowledge or believe there were any ulterior motives. There's no doubt in my mind that the Dumont-Adelson families bought that team to keep it in Dallas. You know, I have no doubt whatsoever that they're committed to the long-term success of that franchise. And in terms of the Dallas fans, all I can say to them is, again, time will tell whether it's the smart trade, but I think they should believe in their organization. Their organization truly made a trade that they believed was in the best interest of the organization. And in many cases, again, doesn't mean they were right or wrong, but it's very difficult to put yourselves in their shoes. I mean, they are living with a situation. They have a philosophical belief on what's necessary ultimately to win championships, and I'm not in a position to second guess that.
We're going to go on the right, second row with the hat, Joe.
With the hat, Joe.
Good evening.
Yes.
There's been some discourse this year about the state of the game, some of it unflattering, including from some high-profile members of your media partners. And you've, throughout some of your availabilities, have talked about some tweaks, like looking at the amount of three-pointers, which suggests that maybe that is a problem. But I did want to ask you what you think or what you feel is the state of the game today.
Joe, I think the state of the game is excellent. I think it's the media's role, the fans' role. It's perfectly appropriate to be critical of the game, and I find it very helpful. I mean, I'm not one of those people who says I don't read criticism. I try to read it all, frankly, and we try to absorb it at the league office, and many great ideas have come from outside this league, even some of the things that we've done most recently over the last several years. Things like a play-in tournament, things like the in-season tournament, which became known as the NBA Cup. I can't claim those were original ideas. Those are things, whether we saw other leagues doing them, media talking about them. So we've made plenty of tweaks over the years. In terms of three-point shooting, it was interesting. Just yesterday, I was listening to Steve Kerr interviewed by Bob Costas, and I thought, like, I actually was eagerly awaiting his response on the state of three-point shooting in this league, one of the all-time great three-point shooters when he played. And I would say, if anything, the three-point revolution of sorts was led by the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. And his reaction was, do I think there's too much three-point shooting? Possibly, yes. Do I think the state of the game is great? Also, yes. Is there a fix that comes to mind that would improve the game and potentially reduce the amount of three-point shooting? There wasn't one that he had to suggest. And as you know, Joe, we have a competition committee. It's something we talk about all the time. And if there's a way to improve the game, believe me, we'll be all over it. I've also learned, having been around this game for a long time, not to overreact. And I think here that I do think it's a beautiful game. I think about 25 years ago was the last time we were in the Bay Area for an all-star game. And the state of the game then, when many people were saying it was too physical, we were too dependent on the dunk, that players weren't sufficiently skilled, as they were saying then in the old days. The fact now that you can't play in this league unless you can shoot, that even 7-footers have to be able to shoot these days and have to be able to shoot at long range, I actually think that's a beautiful thing. And one of the things we pay a lot of attention to at the league and through the competition committees, where, to the extent we have more three-point shooting, where are those shots coming from? They're not coming from under the basket. It's something roughly 50% of the points are still scored in that area. So what you're seeing is a conversion from two-pointers to three-pointers. And often those longer shots, as I said, do take more skill. And one thing I'll add, too, in terms of young people playing the game, I think it's a two-edged sword, because sort of Steve Kerr jokingly was saying, you know, if he goes to a youth basketball game and young kids are, and these days boys and girls, are like throwing up long-range shots, throwing air balls and stuff, it's sort of pointing at the Warriors and saying, your fault. On the other hand, it's a very egalitarian shot. I mean, you could say, to the extent the game is played primarily under the basket, it gives primacy to size, you know, where that notion, if you're a great shooter, you can succeed with differing body types if you can consistently make those shots. So a long way of saying we're paying a lot a lot of attention to it. I'm never going to say there isn't room for improvement. We'll continue to look at it and study it, but I am happy with the state of the game right now.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, ESPN.